I've never had a time in my professional life where Americans have been more concerned about their own self-protection.
You know, the sad truth is often when I'm showing you closed circuit TV footage, it's usually criminal in nature and it's usually a bad guy doing bad things to good people. We review it because there's information that we can make useful. But every so often, a video like this comes along and it's nice to see the tables turned on the criminals. This one got tons of press. This was James Kilcher, former Marine in Yuma, Arizona, at a convenience store. Just as he's leaving, talking to the attendant, this guy comes in. These three guys come in. One has a gun right away, and this guy does not hesitate. This former Marine gets into it right away. What's interesting, though, is that I'm going to talk about some things that I haven't heard anybody else talk about. I've seen multiple interviews with him, and he talked about what he did and how he did it. He absolutely just did not hesitate. But there's some principles that were used in here that I think are extremely useful, and you need to hear about them. Now, one of the terms I'm going to be using is the idea of vectors. And for most people, I know a lot of you will know what vectors are, but I want to be very specific on what I mean with it. So I have an animation that we had created for another part of our seminar that I think would be useful in visualizing everything before I show you the footage of the actual incident. So let's take a look at that. So right here, I'm going to stop it right there. That is a vector. Obviously, we're showing a man shooting a firearm. Okay, that red line is the vector. If that red line intersects with any part of someone's body, that is where the bullet will hit. Okay, and that's the idea of it. So basically, if all he's relying on is the firearm, then he has to make sure that his vector intercepts with whoever the person is, because if not, it's essentially useful to you. Once you solve that vector problem, it's there. Now in TFT, I'll continue this on. What we were trying to show was, hey, a person with a tool like the firearm is only, the firearm's only good if you can get that bullet's vector to intersect with the person in something vital and put them down. It doesn't give you lots of options. But what we try to do is we try to make sure that you have more than just whatever your tool is, that you have also 360 degrees. And so there's the one vector. That's the only thing that can do damage right now. But here, your wingspan, basically anything that you can reach out and touch, we can teach you how to injure somebody. And that's the whole idea, where you have your ultimate concealed carry. But the idea of the vector that you see on here is the key concept. Okay, so just keep that in mind. When I'm talking about vector, I'm talking about this. Okay, and what do we do with this? What do we do with that vector? Okay, now, when we go to see James's, video, it's going to get right into it's a Fox News report, and they're talking about it. I'm going to stop it and give you my takes on certain things. But let's see how it goes down. Let's see what he says.
Three thieves entering the store with masks and a handgun. That's when James Kilcher steps in, taking the gun and holding the crook until police could arrive.
Bringing up his body.
Boom. Okay, so just look now. What he's doing, that's what I'm talking about. That's the vector. Okay, so he is redirecting the vector when he comes in. He's not really injuring to do this, but he's redirecting it. Okay, we can talk about other ways to do this that can also put an injury on somebody, but no problem with what he does and the speed of movement. But once he solves the vector problem, he keeps penetrating in, and he ends up using an improvised weapon. So let's go a little bit further here.
And grab him around his neck and put the gun to his head, spin him around and get him in between me and, because I didn't know if his buddies were going to come. I hit him in the gun before the keys hit the ground. That's how fast I moved. And I'm a little chubby guy, so I mean, I don't move that fast anymore.
I love that, man.
Police arrested one suspect who is only 14 years old. The other two are still on the run.
Okay, let's talk, before I take it back, let's talk a little bit about this, okay? So when he comes in and he sees the guy coming in, he rotates into it. He sees that. He rotates into the vector. He sees the gun right away. He makes a visual, catches in his peripheral. He goes in. His first movement is to go to right there. He's redirecting the vector. Now, at the same time, he's simultaneously bringing up that bag. That bag had Gatorades, a couple of cans of soda in it, and he plowed it into his head when he used it. So he went right into that, penetrated right in, and then he talked about what he did off camera. And that to me was the most interesting part. Was off camera, he talked about the way he penetrated into him, kept rotating. So penetration and rotation, we talk about that all the time. The idea of coming in and that you penetrate through using your body weight into the shot and you get inside. What he did was he continued the rotation, redirected the vector, slammed the guy on the side of the neck with the bag full of drinks, continued around, grabbed him, and was able to rotate the gun into his head. But most importantly, did you see where he talked about he was able to position him during that rotation between himself and the other two guys that were there with him? That's key. He was present. His mind was present enough to know, hey, I've got two other guys to worry about here. I'm going to make sure I use this as my meat shield. And I'm going to make damn sure that I can see everything that's going on. Because the first thing he's going to do is he probably could use this body to redirect into those guys if he needed to do that. But that didn't happen. They all ran out. I heard him in a couple other interviews talking about, how he is. And he's a very humble guy. He got a great award from the Yuma people. And, basically, these are the types of things that you like to see. It's unfortunate that it happened, but it's really great to see somebody who just goes for it and did it correctly. They went to the military training, they talk about him being a former Marine, but it's really, he didn't even hesitate. He just went right in. He said, yes, I did have military training, but honestly, I've been out for a while. That wasn't what I was thinking. I was just thinking, I've got to get control of this guy and get in here right away. And he did that. So penetration, rotation, redirecting the vector. Now, listen, if you liked what we just talked about, but you really want to get on depth on what we're talking about, when it comes to vectors. And I told you there's ways to do this where you actually can injure the person right away, not block, not redirect, but injure the person. This idea of vectors coming in. Now, remember, a vector can be a punch. It can be somebody stabbing a knife at you, somebody trying to hit you with a club. Those are all vectors. Kicking, trying to tackle you. These are vectors coming in at you. And what you need to do is understand that, vectors need to be taken out. And there's many different ways to do that. So listen, in order to do that, the easiest way is to go to timlarkin.com, get your free masterclass. Just give us your email and we will start giving this information to put your self-protection strategy together to train your brain and body to make sure that you can minimize the chance of violence ever coming into your life. Thank you for the support for this channel. Please share this channel with your friends. Let them know we're out here and maybe point to one or two of your favorite videos. That would really help out and we'd really appreciate it. Until next time, stay safe.